Hi there, this is David Solomons, the storyteller. So I'm actually a born and bred Londoner who moved down to the south coast of England just before lockdown. And I hear many stories whilst walking my dog on this beautiful local beach of ours. Everybody talks to me, and this story was one that really stayed with me since the day I heard it, in fact. And I'm going to share it with you. So we were walking our dogs on the beach on a windy October morning. My Labrador Alfie racing ahead while Sandra's Labrador trotted beside us. A German Shepherd bounded past, demolishing somebody's beautifully built sandcastle. So undisciplined, these pet dogs, Sandra said. She had quite a posh voice. She shook her head. The guide dogs I grew up with would never behave like that. They had more self-control than my entire family combined. Now you see, that's the kind of comment that makes you stop walking and think, wait a minute, where's she going with that? For months, we'd exchanged pleasantries about the weather, never really venturing beyond surface conversation. We were friendly strangers, like many others, sharing the same stretch of beach, really nothing more. Then, as our dogs chased the retreating foam, that casual comment opened a door I hadn't noticed before. Sandra's extraordinary story began to unfold. Her mother was born with glaucoma, losing one eye as a baby. At just 3 years old, imagine that, 3, she was packed off to boarding school. A tiny girl learning to navigate darkness by herself. By 8, she lost her second eye completely. I remember asking her once when I was little, Sandra said, watching a Labrador splash up on the shallows. How long is this going to keep on going, Mummy? You know, like it was just some sort of temporary thing that would fix itself. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Mum just looked in my direction and said, for the whole of my life, get used to it. Straight up, no sugarcoating. That was my mum. Sandra grew up understanding that her mother wouldn't be defined by limitations. Her mum's first marriage was to a partially sighted man who made, well, the classic mistake of underestimating a blind woman and cheating on her. Let's just say, Sandra chuckled, he learned the hard way, well, that you don't need eyes to thread a needle and that condoms aren't as foolproof as you might think. Then her mother broke all the unwritten rules of the blind world. Who knew there was even such a thing? I didn't. She married a sighted man, Sandra's father. Apparently it was fine for a sighted woman to marry a blind man, but the other way round, no. That caused quite the scandal in the 1970s London. People told her she couldn't properly care for a household or children. A flash of pride crossed Sandra's face. She proved them all spectacularly wrong. Sandra's childhood was unlike most others. Her mother got creative with parenting. She always bought Sandra clothes that rustled so she could hear. Taffeta dresses, swishy skirts, and that way she could track her daughter's movements by sound. She even chose my school uniform a size too big, Sandra laughed. Anything to make it noisier. She demonstrated how she'd move through their house like a walking sound effect. Stealth was never an option in our house, Sandra said. It wasn't always easy, she admitted, her voice dropping. There were moments of frustration, especially when other children's mothers were doing things mine couldn't. Driving us to parties, seeing me in the school play, stuff like that. I remember once hiding in my room, crying, because she couldn't see the painting I'd spent weeks creating. But then she'd do something that seemed, gosh, like magic. Sandra continued. She could walk into a room, yes, walk into a room and instantly know if I was upset, just from my breathing. She'd know when I was lying about homework before I'd finished the sentence. She taught me to hear what people were really saying beneath their words. On walks, her mother would reach from behind the pram, picking leaves from trees, asking Sandra to describe them. Once I told her a maple leaf was a tiny elephant. Sandra's eyes crinkled. She felt it for 10 seconds before saying, "Nice try, smarty pants." Nothing got past her. Nothing. My mother transformed what others saw as a limitation into her, greatest strength. Sandra continued. She passed her 11 plus exam at 9 years old. Later became a director of the Samaritans, where people specifically requested her. They said she truly listened in a way others didn't, while everybody else was distracted by appearances. She heard the pain or the joy beneath the surface. My parents had disagreement, Sandra said, smiling. No secret facial expressions allowed between my father and me. No raised eyebrows, no hints, no warning glasses, because that would exclude my mother. The tide was pushing us back towards where we'd started. Our dogs were plodding alongside us with tongues lolling. Living with Mum changed all of us, Sandra said. Dad had to say what he was thinking, instead of just making faces. Her voice caught as she added, when my son Sasha's school mentioned he sometimes misses social cues, I just laughed. He gets that from me, I told them. Growing up with a blind mother, I never learned to read faces like others do. Some things, they just skip a generation. I could see both pride and sadness in her eyes. As a teenager, I sometimes wished for a normal mother, Sandra said as we approached the end of our walk. The dogs were tired by now, flopping down at our feet with dramatic sighs. As we said goodbye, Sandra gave me a warm hug that felt like a thank you. Sometimes the people who don't see the world like everyone else are the ones who see it most clearly. And sometimes the most extraordinary stories find you on an ordinary morning beach walk with the dogs, when you finally learn to listen with more than just your ears. Thank you. Thanks for joining me for another story that just needed telling. If you enjoy this tale, well, there are plenty more where that came from. From courtroom battles with music legends to life lessons learned at 35,000 feet. Each story here will change how you see the world, just a little bit maybe. Hit subscribe to catch the next story, because sometimes the best tales find you when you least expect them.